This is one of the hardest videos I have ever recorded.
And I need you to understand why before we go any further. I spent years on the other side of this. Years watching people hand things over, their privacy, their record, their options, without ever realizing it was happening. Not because they were careless, not because they were doing anything wrong, but because they did not recognize the moment for what it was. And the moment I am talking about starts with a question. One question, casual, friendly, even. The kind of question you answer without thinking because it sounds like conversation. But it is not conversation, it is a door. And the second you say sure, the second you say go ahead or I don't mind, or even just laugh it off, that door opens. And you may not be able to close it again. That is not a warning I make lightly.
The question I'm talking about is a technique. It has a shape. I know it because I used it.
That is what makes this difficult to say. I know the mechanics of it from the inside. I know why it works. I know the exact words that trigger it and the exact words that close it. And today I am going to give you both. But I need you to hear something first. The phrase I am going to give you is not a magic trick. It is not a loophole. It is not a way to hide something or make an officer back down or win an argument on the side of the road. It is something simpler and more important than any of that. It is a way to stay in control of your own record at the moment when panic makes most people give it away. There is a version of this encounter where you leave knowing exactly what happened, what you agreed to, and what you did not. That version starts with a pause you may never have known to take.
I'm not telling you this to make you afraid. I'm telling you because you deserve to know the difference.
The difference between a question and a door. The difference between being asked and being tested. The difference between cooperation and consent, because those two things are not the same, and the encounter is designed to make you feel like they are. There are three conditions that make this moment dangerous. There are three protective actions that change it. There are three pressure tactics the encounter will use to push you off course. There are three mistakes that destroy your protection even after you know the phrase. And there is one more layer, one that almost no one talks about, which is what you do if it is already too late. We are going to go through all of it, but first, you need to know the phrase. You need it in your head before the window comes down.
If you get pulled over tonight and you hear that question, this is the sentence that closes the door.
Before your hand moves, before you open the window all the way, before you start explaining that you have nothing to hide, that everything is fine, that they can go ahead and look because you are a cooperative person who has nothing to worry about. Before any of that, you need this phrase in your mouth, already formed, already calm, already ready, because the question moves fast. The encounter moves fast. And the moment you say the wrong thing, the moment you answer before you understand what was actually asked, you cannot unsay it. The gap between the question and your answer is the only window you have. Make sure you know what to do with it.
Officer, I respect what you're doing, but I don't consent to a search. That's it.
I know what you may be thinking. That is it? Yes, that is exactly it. And I know it sounds almost too simple, but that is precisely why it works. Short enough to remember under stress, calm enough not to escalate, clear enough to state a legal position without opening a debate. We will come back to it. First, let us talk about why most people never get there, and what is already working against them before the question even.
If this channel has helped you know your rights, subscribe now. Someone you know needs this too.
Lands, there are three conditions that make the search question dangerous, not one, three. And the problem is that they usually all show up at the same time, in the same encounter, on the same night. The first condition is this. You do not know whether what you are being asked is a request or a right. When an officer looks at you through the window and says, "Mind if I take a look?" that sounds polite. It sounds like they are being considerate. What it does not sound like is a legal threshold, but that is exactly what it is. The law draws a line between a search that requires authority and a search that is voluntary. That line disappears the moment you say yes. And most people say yes before they even understand the question was crossing it. They say yes because they feel like saying no would sound strange, like it would suggest something. Like the cooperative answer is always the safe one, but cooperation and consent are not the same thing, and the encounter is built on that confusion. Your hands are on the wheel. The patrol lights are still going behind you. There is a flashlight in your window. You are thinking about a dozen things at once. Your registration, whether you are late, whether you seem nervous, whether seeming nervous looks suspicious, and then comes the question. And in that moment, mind if I take a look? Does not feel like a legal decision. It feels like a social one, like the right answer is the friendly one, the cooperative one. The one that ends the moment fastest. That instinct is human. It is also how the moment works.
Condition 1. You don't know if it's a request or a command. That confusion is the vulnerability.
The second condition is even quieter. There is no documentation, no recording, no neutral witness. Just you, the officer, and whatever both of you remember afterward. And here is what I can tell you from experience. Memory under stress is unreliable. Not dishonest, unreliable. The exact words the officer used. The exact words you said. Whether you said sure or I guess or nothing at all and just nodded. Whether the officer said do you mind or I'm going to need to check, which are two entirely different things. You will not remember the exact words with precision. Not because you are not paying attention. Because stress compresses time and language into impressions. You will remember the general shape of it. And the general shape may not be enough later when specifics are the only thing that matters. The third condition is the most human one. You are already in a cooperative state of mind. You want to seem innocent. You want to seem like a reasonable person who has nothing to hide. You want the stop to end. You are nervous, and nervousness makes people over-explain, over-agree, and over-give. The question lands at exactly the right moment to take advantage of all three. This is not an accusation of bad intent. This is a description of a pattern, and the pattern does not care whether you are guilty or innocent. It works on both. It works on people who have never done anything wrong in their lives and who will never do anything wrong. Because innocence does not protect you from a question you did not recognize in time.
No witness, no recording, no clear reason. All three at once. That is the moment it gets dangerous.
So now you know the three conditions. Let us talk about what you do inside them. There are three protective actions, not tactics, not tricks, actions that keep you cooperating correctly without giving away what was never asked for. The first one is a pause. Just a pause before you answer any question that contains the words mind anything, problem, or just stop. Those words are consent adjacent. They are framing words. They make the question feel smaller than it is. Mind if I just take a quick look? That sentence contains three of them. Feel how small it makes the request sound. Feel how natural a yes begins to form. Before that happens, pause. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to take one breath before you answer. Nothing about that is suspicious. Nothing about that is uncooperative. The second protective action is to state non-consent clearly, once and then stop talking. Not twice, not with an explanation attached. You say the phrase, you say it calmly, and then you do not keep going. Do not say, I don't consent because I don't like being searched, or I don't consent because last time something went wrong, or I don't consent because I know. My rights and I've been reading about this. Every sentence after the phrase creates new information, new openings, new material. The phrase is clean precisely because it is short. Let it be short. Let the silence after it be exactly what it is. A statement that was made does not need a footnote.
Say the phrase once, then stop. Every word after it is a new opening you didn't need to give.
The third protective action happens after the stop. When it is safe, when you are home, when you are parked. When the interaction is over, write down the exact words that were used. Not the general impression. The exact words. What the officer said. What you said, in what order, what happened next, what the outcome was. This takes 3 minutes. It may matter enormously later. Not because you are planning to fight anyone or build a case, but because exact words are evidence, and evidence fades fast. The record you keep is the one you control. Everything else is someone else's version. Now let us talk about what is going to try to stop you from using the phrase at all. There are 3 pressure tactics, and I want to be clear. I'm not saying every officer uses these deliberately. Some do not. Some are just moving fast and the encounter has its own momentum. But the pressure is real either way, and you need to recognize it before it works on you. The first tactic is the casual reframe. This is when the search question gets wrapped in smallness. It'll only take a second. I just want to make sure everything's fine. This is routine. These are minimizing frames. They make the search sound like a formality, like it barely counts. Like it would be strange to object to something so minor. The smaller it sounds, the faster you agree. And the faster you agree, the less you understood what you were agreeing to. The second pressure tactic is the innocence trap. This is the most psychologically precise one. You don't have anything in there I should know about, do you? Hear what that question is actually doing. It is not asking for consent to search. It is asking you to declare your innocence. And when you say no, of course not, which is what innocent people naturally say, you have just made. The search sounds like a reasonable response to your own denial. The question is designed so that the answer of an innocent person functions like permission. That is not a coincidence. That is the mechanics of the technique.
You're not hiding anything, right? That's not curiosity. That's the innocence trap. Recognize it.
The third pressure tactic is the momentum push. This is when the officer starts moving before consent is confirmed. A hand toward the door handle, a step toward the rear of the vehicle, the flashlight already sweeping. The implication is that the search is already happening, and stopping it would require you to do something abnormal, to object, to interrupt, to make the situation awkward. But here is what that tactic relies on. It relies on you believing that the moment has already passed. It has not. The moment has not passed until you say yes. And if you have not said yes, you have not said yes. Movement is not consent. Silence is not consent. Looking nervous is not consent. Here is how you navigate all of this. The decision tree is simple, but you need to hear it before the midpoint of any encounter. If the officer gives you a clear, specific, lawful reason for the search, a specific law, a specific observation, a warrant, your priority is calm compliance. Move slowly. Announce your movements. Do not argue. Do not make this a contest. Cooperation is not the mistake. Unexamined consent is the mistake. Those are different things, and the difference matters enormously.
If there's a lawful reason, comply calmly. The goal is never to fight. It's to understand what's being asked.
If the officer gives you a vague answer, routine, procedure, just because, don't make this difficult. That is when you use the follow-up phrase. Calmly, respectfully, without attitude. I understand, officer. I'm not trying to make this difficult. I'm asking for the specific reason so I can cooperate correctly. That is all. You are not refusing. You are asking for clarity. There is a difference, and the phrasing preserves it. If the officer becomes irritated, do not mirror it. Do not raise your voice. Do not start quoting law on the side of the road. You do not win that exchange, and winning it was never the goal. Repeat calm cooperation. Prioritize your safety above any argument, and remember the details of the encounter for later, when the right place to address what happened is available, and the street is not that place. Now let us talk about the 3 mistakes that destroy the protection. Even for people who know the phrase. Even for people who have watched every video, done the reading, and know exactly what they are supposed to say. Because knowing the words is only part of it. The delivery is the other part. And the delivery is what breaks under pressure. The first mistake is saying the right words with the wrong tone, sarcasm, irritation, a challenging delivery, a slight smirk, an edge that says you think you are smarter than this interaction. The words can be legally correct, and the tone can still escalate everything. The officer does not process the legal statement. The officer processes the attitude behind it. And attitude changes encounters faster than content does. The second mistake is over-explaining after the phrase. You say, "Officer, I respect what you're doing, but I don't consent to a search." Good, that is correct. And then, because you are nervous, because silence feels uncomfortable, because you want to explain that you are a good person who is not hiding anything, you keep going. "I just don't want you going through my stuff because last time something got taken and I couldn't prove it, or I've been pulled over a lot lately, and I'm just trying to protect myself." Every sentence after the phrase is a new opening, new information, new reason to ask another question. The phrase works because it is complete. The moment you add to it, you have broken it and handed back the momentum you just reclaimed.
Say the phrase, then stop. Silence after a clear statement is not suspicious. It is correct.
The third mistake is the one that happens before any of this, answering the question before you recognize it. The laugh off, the casual wave. The nah, go ahead delivered in the first 2 seconds because you are nervous and eager to seem cooperative, and you have not yet processed what was actually asked. By the time you realize what you said, the consent is already established. This is why the pause matters so much. This is why recognizing the shape of the question, the words mind, anything, problem, just, gives you the second you need to catch it before you answer it away without meaning to. Now I want to show you 2 versions of the same moment. Because the phrase exists in the real world, not in theory, and you need to see what it looks like when it lands. First version. Night road, single lane, patrol lights filling your mirrors. The officer comes to the window. You hand over your license and registration. He looks them over. Then the tone shifts, just slightly, and he says, "You don't have anything in here I should worry about, do you?" You feel the urge to say no, of course not. You feel the urge to prove your innocence by cooperating. Instead, you pause. Your hands stay on the wheel, your voice stays level, you say, "Officer, I respect what you're doing, but I don't consent to a search." The officer pauses. The encounter continues. It does not explode. It does not become a confrontation. You did not accuse anyone of anything. You did not recite case law. You just closed the door the question was trying to open, and you stayed in control of your record. Second version, daytime stop. You are already a little nervous before the officer reaches the window. He is friendly, easy, conversational. After the document check, he leans slightly and says, "Mind if I take a quick look in the back?" And before you even think, you laugh a little. You say, "Sure, I got nothing." He is already moving toward the rear door. And then it hits you. You realize what you just said. Here is what you do not do. You do not panic. You do not reach for anything. You do not try to physically stop the search. You do not start explaining wildly. You keep your voice steady and you say, "I want to be clear, I didn't mean that as formal consent. I'm not trying to interfere, I just want that understood. The search may still happen. That is possible. But the record is different now." And when the stop is over, you sit for 3 minutes and you write down the exact words that were used, the question, your answer, what happened next. You do not try to win the moment. You preserve the information. That is the version of this encounter you can still work with.
If you already said yes, don't panic. You can still clarify. The record isn't closed until you leave.
This is the part most people do not expect from this video. They come in thinking it is only about prevention. Say the right thing before the door opens. And yes, that is most of it. But there is a second layer. What if you already opened the door? What if you already said yes? What if the search has already started and you are standing there wondering if you just made an irreversible mistake? You did not. Here is what you have. You have your voice. You still have the ability to say clearly, calmly, without grabbing anything or interfering with anything. "I want to state that I did not intend to give voluntary consent. I want to cooperate. But I want that on the record." That sentence does not stop what is happening, but it changes what happened. And afterward, write it all down. Every word. Legal review happens later, not on the roadside. The goal in the moment is not to win. It is to preserve the record so that winning, if it becomes necessary, is still possible. You cannot go back and uncross the line, but you can mark where it was. I want to be clear about something before we close this out. The officers asking this question are, in most cases, not acting in bad faith. The question is fast. It is habitual. It works because most people answer it without thinking, and most of the time the stop ends without anything significant happening. A citizen who knows how to answer it is not an adversary. They are someone who understands the interaction clearly enough to participate in it correctly. Rights awareness is not hostility. A calm person asking for a specific reason is not a problem for an officer who can provide one. The goal of everything in this video is not to make encounters worse. It is to make them clearer ground for both sides. Less confusion, less pressure, less of that feeling afterward that something happened that you did not fully understand while it was happening. Let me bring this back together. The trick question has a shape. Learn to recognize it before you answer it. Mind, anything. Problem? Just are the words that frame it. The phrase that closes it, "Officer, I respect what you're doing, but I don't consent to a search." Say it once. Say it calmly. Then stop talking. If the officer gives a vague answer, follow up. "I'm not trying to make this difficult. I'm asking for the specific reason so I can cooperate correctly." If the officer gives a clear lawful reason, comply. Move slowly, do not argue. If the officer becomes irritated, do not mirror it. Repeat calm cooperation. Prioritize safety. Remember details for later. The 3 biggest mistakes: wrong tone, over-explaining, and answering before you recognize the question. And if it is already too late, stay calm. State that you did not intend voluntary consent. Do not grab anything and write it all down when the stop is over.
The phrase is not a weapon, it's a pause. The difference between a choice you made and one made for you.
If this video reached you before it happened, good. Share it now because this information should not be rare. Send it to someone who drives alone at night and does not know this question exists. Send it to someone who gets nervous when they see patrol lights in their mirror and does not know what to say. Tell me in the comments, what exact words did the officer use when this happened to you? Because those details matter more than people realize. If you have been through this and you said yes before you understood what you were agreeing to, write what happened next. You are not alone, and your experience may be the thing that helps someone else recognize the moment before they lose it. I started this video by telling you it was one of the hardest ones I have ever had to record. Now you know why. Not because the information is dangerous, because it should not have to be taught. Because somewhere right now, someone is sitting in a car with patrol lights in their mirror and a casual question coming through the window, and they do not know that the question is a door. You do now. The phrase is not designed to help you win an argument. It is designed to help you keep your voice, your record, and your options in the one moment where panic makes most people give all three away. I spent years on the other side of that question. Now you know what it was really asking.